G'day Battlers and welcome to the G'day Battlers podcast, episode 21, where we are sort of returning to form in the sense that the very first 4 or 5 or 6 episodes of the podcast about a year ago, we started off with a Road to Worlds edition. And so now it is the Road to Worlds edition again, because we are going to be talking to some of the World Championship contenders, except it's sort of crossing over with what we were doing anyway in talking to the regional winners. So it's essentially a 2-for-1 deal. So this is sort of like episode 21 and 22 all in one.
What a
All
bargain.
that to say, yeah, we're basically just giving, we're just so giving. We're basically like Santa Claus, but a podcast. So with that said, we are joined by the Perth Regional Championship winner, RicFlareon. Hi, Rick.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Welcome back. It's been like a year-ish. I didn't check.
I've been trying to win something to get here again, but finally happened.
I assumed that was like the number one goal as far as, I just need to win something so I can get onto Thingo. Although I will say the Melbourne one, because Yakko won a second time, he was like, I'm not going on solo. Bring triple crit with me. So I guess if he came second to Yakko, that would have worked too.
Yeah, I mean, Perth's pretty far, so I needed a good reason to go, so that was it.
Oh, that's fair enough. Well, I guess for those who don't know who RicFlareon is, which I would find a little hard to believe for long-time followers of this podcast, but also of the Play Pokemon circuit, can you just sort of let us know who you are, all of your all of your accolades from from everywhere. We have to know everything.
Oh, okay. How long have you got? No. I'm RicFlareon. I'm from Sydney. I play Pokemon Go. I've won 2 regional championships. I've been to Worlds twice. Yeah, I don't know. Done a few other things, but
I mean, not only gone to Worlds twice, but come top 16 at Worlds twice, which not a feat that many have done. I never actually counted, but I know It's Axon was also top 16 at the first World Championships. I'm not sure if the list is much longer than that as far as double top 16ers, but
yeah, I think he's the only other one. I think Vish is the only other 2-time day 2. But yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's, of course, on top of all the other things, like you were top 8 at OCIC, top 4 at Perth last year, second place at the Sydney Regional Championship last season, which is probably the regional championship that gets brought up the most on this podcast for obvious reasons. Hashtag well mistake. But yeah, essentially all that to say you're a very accomplished battler and probably one of the Aussie GOATs, I would suggest. My head.
Yeah, thank you, I guess.
And so humble as well. But yeah, like you've got a list of, accolades that we can talk about. And just like as we just briefed over, but let's focus on this season. So obviously this season, Australia having 3 regionals, we were very limited in the opportunities to gain championship points, and championship points being brought into only into this season. So we'll just brief over where it all started, I suppose. Because it's the first time you've been on for a while, let's talk about Brisbane.
Yeah, so Brisbane, I came 3rd place there. I ran a pretty cool team with a Flash Cannon Registeel. Yeah, so I guess day 1 I went undefeated, made it to day 2. Then day 2 I lost twice in a row, but I lost a very close game 5 to Stumpy, and then another very close game 5 to Yakko. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, those were
a good time.
Yeah, no, those were very close matches. Interesting, thought process with the Flash Cannon Registeel. Why did you decide to opt to go with that?
So that was the previous meta where Whiscash wasn't a thing yet, and Gligar was the main counter to Registeel. So having Flash Cannon meant you could flip that matchup or at least make it not as bad. And I was running it in GBL a lot, and it was working for me there, so I thought I'd give it a shot. I think that tournament, I sort of locked my team in like the day before, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare it. So I was just like, I've been using this Registeel. I know how to play it. I'll just run it, and it was actually like really good. It was probably my best Pokemon that weekend. So hopefully you don't regret it.
I mean, like, yeah, I can't imagine. Like, I don't know about you, Steve, but I can't imagine locking in something that like so close to a tournament. Well, actually, no, Steve. I know you have locked in like something just beforehand.
Yeah. I mean, we've already mentioned it, but Sydney Regionals, I literally picked like Wailmer and a Alolan Mug like immediately beforehand, like at the deadline. It was hard to get tighter. Plus, actually, at Brisbane, I picked Buzzwole. Like, oh wait, was that Melbourne? No, that was Melbourne. Picked the Buzzwole after we'd sort of all hung out for dinner. But yeah, I will say I'm always a big fan of things that are a little bit off the regular. So picking Flash Cannon on Registeel, like I no one else ran Flash Cannon Reggie in that tournament. So it's not like it was something that a lot of people were cooking. It was just a RicFlareon special, and pretty sick to see it work, especially because they were like Stumpy, who ended up coming second in that tournament. In addition to running, I guess, another RicFlareon Classic in Swampert, which you didn't in that particular tournament. He was also running Carbink and Frostlass, which just like increases the usefulness of Flash Cannon, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because Frostlass was pretty popular back then as well. So that was another good thing for it. And also Superior was popular, and Flash Cannon made that matchup a lot better because it's pretty close normally. But and yeah, I don't know, for some reason just running one weird pick in my team seems to always work for me. Like at Worlds, I used the Powder Snow A/Slash before anyone else was using that. I used the Surfetch in the first tournament I won when Betachan was probably the smarter choice, but I probably don't win that tournament without the Surfetch. So yeah, I don't know. It just seems to work out sometimes having like a bit of an oddball pick on your team.
You know,
which was definitely the case going to Perth as well, but we'll get to that a little bit later, I suppose.
Yes.
I suppose that's where the flair comes in, the username. But yeah, running. So Brisbane, obviously in the top 3, and I believe, how many championship points is that? 130. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, 130. So you're already like almost halfway. In that already. Then we, 3 months down the track, we had Melbourne Regional. And how'd you fare in that?
I came 5th place. I wasn't as happy with my performance there. Again, I ran a team that I sort of picked the night before, but this time I wasn't as happy with the team. Looking back at it, it was, pretty bad team. And what happened? I got to, I think it was like the game before the winners finals against Jukovic, and my team against his team it was a struggle. So he beat me pretty easily. And then I played Avrip in the next round, and that was really close, but he got me in the end. So I'm pretty happy considering how bad I think the team was, how well I went in the end, I guess.
Yeah, we had Jukovic in a previous podcast. I'm going to say previous podcast, but then I'm like, no, he's been on too many times. when am I recalling to? But he mentioned at one point during the Melbourne Regional that you were battling him, and he said, like, Rick was just there going, I hate your team. I hate your team. I hate this.
Can confirm.
If I recall, it was a bit of a different team as well. Like, I sort of remember him being a bit of a trailblazer as far as a Abomasnow, which I don't think it had won anything yet. I feel like he was the first one that won with a Abomasnow in the season, although I remember there being a few in the regional beforehand in Europe, I think. But I also ran Pelipper, which, like, I'm pretty sure he was the only one in the top 8. Or maybe there was a second one in the top 8. But it was a pretty unique team compared to what everyone else is running.
Yeah, definitely. It was like I actually really like the team you ran. I don't like a bomber snow because I find it. Well, I don't like playing against it. I don't mind using it, but playing against it, it's just really annoying. It's like kind of polarizing to a lot of things. But yeah, the team was smart, I think. So well done to him.
And yeah, so by that point, so top 5 is 100 CP, I think. So you're sitting pretty comfortably at 230, if I'm correct, at this point, after the 2 regionals.
Yes.
And
I think that was before locals as well. Oh no, they had just announced locals were
correct.
coming, right?
Yeah. So and thankfully, thank you also to TPCI Play Pokemon, that our championship point requirement got dropped from 300 to 250, and that was announced just before. Basically, it was on Friday night, I think. Before playing on Saturday, and I think they were very much like, I want to announce it as soon as possible, so that it was a little bit more, I wouldn't say lax leading into Melbourne, but the stress of, especially for someone like say like Jakovic that did win previous regional and then taking someone's spot. I think he was a bit worried about that, but yeah, dropping it to 250, and then locals were introduced. So I think when you're sitting at 230, it was just kind of like, in my opinion, I imagine that you would be being like, oh, cool, just another 20 points and I'm there.
Yeah, I think at that point I kind of knew I was going to be qualifying. So yeah, it was good. I think the announcement to drop the points was definitely needed, just considering how long it took. Because we were like more than halfway through the season at that point, and it was kind of looking like it's almost impossible to qualify. But yeah, after that happened, I think everyone was feeling pretty positive about it. So yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, I guess for you personally, because originally like we had that 300 CP limit and you were sort of doing well to progress towards that. I just wanted to jump into your headspace as far as what was your game plan going through this season, as far as what did you want to achieve? How are you planning the path to 300? And then how did that adjust for planning it to go to 250? I mean, I feel like in the back of your head, it was probably just, let's just win one. And there's the auto qualification right there. But what was going through your head as far as how to get to the World Championship qualification?
I guess my goal at the start of the season was to do either win a regional or to get top 8 in all 3 of them. So, and I was like, if I can't do that, then I don't qualify or whatever. It's fine. But that was the goal. And even after locals had been announced, that was still a goal I wanted to go for. That's why I did go to Perth in the end. And yeah, so that it did work out because I managed to achieve both those things. So yeah, but that was my sort of plan.
Yeah, fair enough. And apologies if a barking dog joins my joins me in the background. The next door's neighbor dog is apparently really having a great time. But I guess then, as Debbie mentioned before, it goes to 250 CP limit. You've got the 230. It's pretty much guaranteed that you'll hit it through locals. But yeah, still wanted to go to Perth to pick up those. I guess. I mean, there's also prize money involved too, right? Like it's sort of. After they buffed how much prize money you get from regional this season, it's a lot more reasonable, more possible that you can sort of win the money to pay for your trip as well. Is nice.
Yeah, that's definitely helped like my decision to want to do that because I think even if I didn't do well in Perth, I probably wouldn't have been in profit, but I would have been close, So like it wouldn't have been that bad really. Yeah, it's that's definitely a factor.
Yeah, for
Sorry,
sure. But I guess
live so far.
Oh.
Okay.
It's all your fault, Debbie.
I knew it.
We know that TPCI is only hosting the regional there because you're there. So if you could just sort of scooch inland a bit, that would be great.
No.
What we have to put up with. But I guess let's pivot into Perth a little bit. So I guess to start, let's talk about your team. So I think, as you mentioned before, there is a little bit of a, I guess a special pick in your team of 6, but take us through your process in sort of putting a team together for this last regional of the season. At this point, you'd qualified through locals, right?
No, I still needed
Oh,
10
that's right.
points.
Yeah. Because this was
So
actually
I was
only
close, but
yeah. Locals opened up in, well, not that far before
yeah, I think
Perth
we had a
Regional.
month of locals, but I think we had only had 2 in Sydney or in New South Wales. So yeah, I was still 10 points off. So yeah, once I hit top 8 in Perth, I knew I was qualified, so that was cool. What was the question again?
Okay, yeah, sorry. I sidetracked myself before even getting to the question mark. I wanted to sort of know about your team, how you put your team together, because, yeah, it's a little bit different to a lot of the other teams that came into Perth.
Yeah, so this team, I was sort of running similar teams in some practice tournaments and some locals, and some scrims before. I knew I wanted to use Skarmory and Gligar because I just found they just sort of paired really well together. Like you can sort of safe swap Gligar, and worst case they come in with their Skarmory, and then you can farm their Skarmory down with your own Skarmory, and it just sort of works out pretty well. And then I wanted to bring Lantern as well, so they were like my 3, just definitely in the team. Lantern, because just based on who was going, I was like thinking it would be good against a lot of teams. Like I looked at Avrip and Claire's teams from Melbourne. They were both pretty weak to Lantern. Rob always brings his Bastiodon and his Azumarill, so Lantern's good there. Jai loves his Mandivars and his Alolan Ninetales, so Lantern was good there. So I was like,
I loves many things.
yeah, well, yeah, that too. So those were the 3 that were like always on the team. Then I spoke to Vish the day before, and he mentioned he's been liking Swampert a lot. And Swampert wasn't on my radar up till that point, but I just sort of I looked at because EUIC was the week before, and there was that Dracoviz graphic with the top 32 teams. So I just sort of looked at that and I was like, okay, would I prefer Swampert or Whiscash against a lot of these teams? And I just sort of found like Swampert actually looked pretty good. Like especially against some teams like Junebug's team, like the Swampert just sort of had there was no response to it. It just sort of paces quicker, hits a bit harder. I think with the team I ended up with the Vigoroth and what was my other pick, Altaria. Whiscash probably would have been smarter because one of the main reasons Swampert was good is because it kind of just destroys Gligar. But Gligar like wasn't bringable against my team. So having Swampert for that reason was kind of didn't make a lot of sense. But I like Swampert, so I just ran with it. And yeah, so that was the team.
Yeah, I mean, Swampert's definitely a Pokemon you've personally run quite a bit, including at the Yokohama World Championships. It's interesting to me that it actually came through a conversation with Vish rather than it being something in the back of your own mind. Although I guess I will say as well, though, as much as we were sort of hoping to counter Gligar and you sort of had Gligar counters anyway, you didn't actually, like, your opponents in Perth didn't really have Gligar. Like that
I
sort of
think
dodged him a little, even though it was the top used Mon.
I know Gon had it and Rob had it. I'm guessing no one else did though. So
I mean, most of your battles were on stream as well, which I suppose, this is where we can also offer you an apology, because one of the
Sorry,
quirks
Rick.
of the Perth regional stream, which again, we were pretty stoked to have a stream for Perth, be able to show off these battles, be able to show why, people like RicFlareon are so hecking good. One thing we didn't really realize was that the way that we had the stream set up, battlers weren't able to listen to the in-game audio because essentially we used a HDMI cord and it ate up the phone's audio so that even if you plugged in earphones, the HDMI cable sort of took precedence. And so it just ate it up into the stream as opposed to letting the players listen in, which, as I know Rick is someone that does prefer to listen to, have those in-game cues handy. Sorry, Rick, but I guess evidently you didn't need it. So not that sorry.
Maybe he plays better
Yeah.
without. No.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I find it's nice to just have something to focus on that you can listen to rather than getting distracted by, other people's noise around you. So that's one reason I like it, and also sometimes when you're a one-turn move versus another one-turn move, it's hard to count, but you can count the sounds. But I didn't end up facing many one-turn move Pokemon, I don't think. So, yeah, I guess it didn't matter in the end. But I hope you can set it up for next time. But we'll see.
Yeah, now that we sort of know it's an issue, it's something we can sort of try and play towards. I've pulled up the Dracoviz, and you did actually only face one single one-turn Movemon, and it was Gon's Altaria in the entire tournament. Literally everything else was at
I
least
think
two
because
turns.
I think Jai had a Reggie, so there was that too.
Oh, you're correct. It's literally there 3 times. I don't know how I missed Reggie.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm glad that I would feel very bad if it got in the way of you winning. So I'm glad it all worked out for the best in that run. But I guess with that said, let's take a look at your run a little bit. So you spent most of your time in the winners bracket. So you sort of got to skip. Well, I mean, not necessarily skip. You managed to dodge the sort of classic losers bracket run where essentially your number of battles doubles to have to get to the goal line. So, do you remember much about your sort of first couple of rounds?
So my first match was against Keiki. I remember he had a team that was pretty weak to Swampert, and he only had one Lantern answer, which was Stunfisk. So that him using that was, I guess, difficult, being weak to Swampert as well. I won the first game pretty easily. The second game was close. I remember the Lantern did get locked onto the Stunfisk, but yeah, I managed to win that in the end, I guess.
Evidently.
And then I played Rob. So yeah, Rob had a team I was a bit worried about. He had the Shadow Sableye, which I didn't have any real answer to. And then he also had Dugong, which is like something going into it I was a bit worried about facing. But he was pretty weak to my Lantern as well, so I had that in my favor. I remember thinking like his Bastion looked hard for him to bring, and his Gligar was hard for him to bring, so I just had to sort of focus on 4 Pokemon, which was made it easier to sort of predict him. M1, I led Lantern into his Dugong. I remember I shielded the first move, and then I landed a Thunderbolt, farmed him down. Then he ended up having Azu in the back, and I saved my Lantern, and yeah, I was able to win it that way. Then game 2, I think I led Gligar into Sableye, and then I predicted that he was likely to bring the Dugong and Azumarill in the back, so I had my Vigoroth and Lantern in the back to counter that. So, yeah, I managed to get through that, which was nice because Rob beat me last year in Perth, so bit of revenge there.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean, and that was sort of the first-ish game on stream also.
Yeah, I mean, I think
It's-
you only caught like half of the second
Yeah.
game. So, yeah.
Yeah, Battle 1 had already passed through. Battle 2, we jumped in halfway through. Well, I guess not halfway through. You'd both just swapped out of the lead matchup, and our casting audio didn't come in for another like 60 seconds. So,
Yeah.
we casted like the last minute of that. But yeah, technically the sort of first ever battle streamed from an Australian regional. So
Ooh.
there's that.
Congrats on both of you.
Yeah. So I won the first game on stream. That's nice.
But definitely nice to sort of take out sort of, I guess, one of the two people that were the most feared at the Perth Regional Championship, being Rob and Avrip, the two guys who had come 1 and 2 at year 1 and come 1 and 2 year 2. Sort of forces something to happen, because I think Avrip went down to the losers bracket relatively early as well. So I know early on Debbie commented that we were no longer in a possible 3-year repeat of the grand finals. So, taking out, one guy who's definitely pretty strong and the only Bastion in the tournament, definitely nice.
Yeah, I went into this. I went into this thinking like I was basically playing for third place, because those two were technically first and second. So, yeah.
All went well, and I know in the next round you ended up going against one of the other guys who is sort of a little bit of an always the bridesmaid, never the bride, in terms of he's always been on the cusp. And I think
That's so
this year is going to be
mean.
his first chance. Well, he's always come so close. I know at the Melbourne Championships in 2022, he was there. I think was he third at Melbourne? He was at least top 4.
Yeah, he was third. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was
And I played him in round 2 at Melbourne, and he went, and I beat him, and he went all the way through like the whole losers bracket to make it to third place. So that was very impressive run from Gon. And yeah, I think he's probably had like 4 or 5 top 8
he's
tournaments in Australia. So yeah, he's very good player.
I remember being top 8 at OCIC as well. I think that, on Triple Crit and Claire as sort of the first 3 names that come to mind as sort of 3 people who have always been really good, but just haven't got that Worlds qualification in the last 2 seasons. But this season, that is all set to change. 2 of them have already qualified. One's about to qualify. But regardless, looking at back to Perth, trying to rope us back in. Yeah, I think so. Round 3, winners round 3, which at that point was quarterfinals, I think. Sort of only 8 people left up in the winners bracket, and have to take on Gone with, again, that Altaria existing this time.
Yeah. So I don't remember exactly what happened game 1. I know I led Swampert, but I managed to win that. And then the second game, we both ran the same 3, which were Altaria, Lantern, Skarmory. But I led the Altaria, he led the Skarmory. So I had to swap out. I swapped my Lantern into his Skarmory, which is like kind of weird, I guess, swapping your hard answer into the lead Pokemon. But if I had swapped the Skarmory and he would have just come in Lantern, I would have just immediately lost. So swapping in the Lantern, he didn't have a good response, so he ended up bringing his own Lantern in. And that freed up my Skarmory in the back, and I think I ended up winning that by like 1 HP or something. So it was a pretty good game. And then I played Z-Tarb. So he had the Clodsire and the Mantine, which were like actually a difficult core to play against, because Mantine's actually pretty good against my team, apart from like Lantern, obviously, but then he's got the Clodsire to counter the Lantern. So I was a little worried about that, but I can't remember what happened in that one either. But I think game 2 I actually led Lantern into his Mantine, but he safe swapped Lickitung, I think, and he managed to flip the switch on me. And then somehow I won that. I don't know how, but yeah. So I was pretty happy I managed to get past that game as well. Z-Tub's someone I've never played either, so I wasn't really sure what to expect against him.
Yeah, I actually remember. So I actually, just as an aside before I bring it back, was every one of your rounds post the stream starting streamed? Did you actually play off stream?
Yeah. No, I didn't play off stream.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that round one against Keiki, I guess.
Yeah, it was nice. One round with headphones.
Well, I guess at least that's glad in the sense that for the first time ever, you've actually got all of the recordings of your battles for the entire tournament, pretty much, which not something that we can usually manage. Not allowed to take the recordings off of phones, so at least there's something to look back on, but also something for your future opponents to study up on as well. I know. I know Dunebug is someone that likes to watch back people's tapes.
Or I was
That's
going to
okay.
say,
I can play differently.
I was going to add there was someone to steal your team for their future regional.
True, yes.
Yeah, I guess we'll come back to that as well. But yeah, I do remember with Z-Tub, I was sort of talking on the cast about the fact that his main team looked really scary to bring. There was all of these counters to it around, and then he just always decided like, no, that's fine. I'll bring main team anyway. And yeah, you're right. Sort of was able to escape some sort of tricky scenarios here or there. But I mean, you at this point, you hadn't dropped a single game as well. So I just know off of that factoid in my head that you definitely went 2-0 against Z-Tub
Yes.
all the way to the winners finals.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was going pretty well. And I was sort of at the point where I'm like, oh, I haven't dropped a game yet. I don't want to jinx this. And Mikey mentioned, I was like, shut up, don't jinx it.
Classic Mikey.
Yeah. So I'm definitely blaming Mikey for the all the losses against Jai.
Oh, I thought we were blaming Rise, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they can both cop the blame, I guess.
Okay, yep. But yeah, you went into now known as They Love Jai into the next, well, I suppose the next half of your battles, because really, like, Jai took a good percentage of them.
Yeah, I wonder, did I play more games against Jai than everyone else in total? Pretty sure I did.
Quick maths, yes. You played literally 8 battles against anyone else.
So
And
going,
how many against Jai? 12.
Yeah, 12. 3 there. So with Jai going into that first match against him there, still on that hot streak that you were running, how'd you feel through that?
Yeah, I can't remember. I remember my Starmie, Gligar, and Vigoroth looked pretty safe, so I was relying on those a lot. But I don't remember that set too well, to be honest.
Obviously not remembering the wins, because obviously, like, you've just done so well throughout, going, yep, cool, all right, banked it, won, moving on.
Well, I think because I played him so many times, like those first games are just gone from my memory. But yeah,
fair enough. And then obviously Jai being knocked into the losers bracket and then coming back up. So versing Jai again, how'd you feel being like, oh, okay, all right, I'm versing Jai again in that second bit?
Yeah, I was actually rooting for Claire because I don't like facing someone again because I feel like they sort of learnt how they lost to you the first time, and they can adapt. And it's hard as the player who beat them previously to know, should I just do the same thing or are they going to adapt to that and should I do the opposite? So I didn't want to have to deal with that. But unfortunately I did, and yeah, he obviously did learn something because he beat me 5 games in a row.
Steve, how many minutes was that? 5 minutes. Sorry, not 5 minutes. 5 games in a row.
I can't remember who did the. Oh, I think it was Caleb who was talking about it at some point. But he was like, for 42 minutes straight, RicFlareon was just sitting there losing. So I guess the question becomes, you fought all the way to the grand finals. You had a 100% win rate. You win that first game, but then Jai beats you again and again and again and again and again, to the point where after a bracket reset, you're literally one game away from, still coming second at Perth Regionals, but, the one game away from losing the Perth Championship. What was going through your head through that entire spiel? Like, was there a game of mental fortitude? Was there a point where you kicked yourself into gear? Was there a point where you were like, okay, I need to try something radically different? Like, what was your headspace in this gun of a tournament run into an 0-5 and potential loss?
So I was just taking it one game at a time, just focusing on trying to win the next game. I was finding it hard to get a read on what he was doing because he would just lock in his team like instantly. Like the game ended, next round he just locks in his team. I was like, is he thinking about this? Is he just selecting 3 random Pokemon? Like I had no idea what he was doing, and it was throwing me off. But so after the reset, he wins the first game. I realized I could have played it differently, where he had his Whiscash in the back, and if I just sort of played for switch advantage, I had an Altara in the back, so I could have won it that way. And then the next game, he runs the same lead, same secondary Pokemon. I've got Altari in the back, so I'm thinking, okay, he's got Whiscash in the back. I'll just save my Altari for that. He ended up having Registeel in the back. But that was like really smart team by him. But him doing that just made me realize like what his strategy is. So that's when I sort of actually knew what to do finally. So the third game, I sort of knew he was going to go back to the Whiscash in the back. So I just picked the same team again, with the same strategy I should have got in the first game. And I won that game. Then the next game, what did he do? I don't remember what happened, but I predicted what he was going to do, I think, and I was able to beat him. And then the last game, I just sort of knew I wanted to finish it with Swampert. So I was like, all right, I'll lead Swampert, and I'll have Vigoroth, Gligar in the back because they're both pretty safe into his team. And I got a Mandibuzz lead, which was not ideal, but I think I chipped it, swapped out to Vigoroth. Then he sacked his A9 into my Vigoroth. I think he was expecting Skarmory in the back from me, so that's probably why he did that. But then that sort of allowed me to sort of clean up with Gligar and just ended up mud-shotting down his Mandibuzz with Swampert, and that was it, yeah. So yeah, I guess I was pretty fortunate the way things panned out in that last game, but
it was a beautiful finish.
Yeah.
I mean, beautiful is one way to put it. I know Debbie and I, Rise and Fishy Legs were casting at the time, but Debbie and I were just like, what is happening?
Yeah, there was a lot of noise in that hotel of screaming. Glad we weren't casting that time, actually. Would not look professional at all.
Yeah, so that was that. Yeah, I don't know. What else do you want me to talk about?
Well, I mean, like, you've just won a regional after, I think, from 2022, from that first Melbourne regional, and now actually getting to another regional and finally clenching that champion spot again. How'd that feel?
Yeah, it was good. It obviously been a while. Something I'd been chasing, so yeah, it always feels good when you. I think when you don't win a tournament, you always sort of I feel like you could have done something better, but it's nice to just end the tournament as the winner. Like, you don't have to think about anything I could have done better. Just all worked out well. So
Awesome. And I think, like, not only insta qualifying from winning the regional, also, as soon as you were top 8, you already qualified anyway, but now having that extra 200 points being added to your name really jumped you up all the way on the top of the Oceania leaderboard for that period of time. We won't mention the other person that's overtaken you. But for that period of time, that's still pretty cool.
yeah, it's nice to, like, obviously the travel award would be a huge help because Hawaii's like not cheap. But yeah, it's also nice to just have something to keep working at for the locals, trying to achieve that. So it's yeah, good.
Yeah. I mean, like, talking about Hawaii, that's now it's May, so it's actually, I keep thinking it's so far away, but it's not. Now that the dates have been announced after EUIC, do you have any plans for Hawaii, or, like, are thinking holiday a little bit beforehand, or straight to work and just be like, nah, I'm just gonna play, like, just purely for the tournament?
Yeah, so I'm going there for a week, but I'm pretty much leaving straight after the tournament. I think I'm going to do the same thing I did last year, where I just took a week off work before leaving, just to sort of get myself prepared for the tournament. But yeah, it should be a good time in Hawaii for a week. I think I'm going to be staying with Yaku, Avrip, and Vish, so hopefully we can do some scrims and stuff while we're there, so we're all nice and prepared.
All in this Aussie household, it sounds like.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, I mean that 3 of those 4 names, not to call out Adam, but 3 of the 4 are the only 3 Australians to win more than one tournament. Not that like Australia's had that many. Like we sort of had 2 the first season, 4 in the second season, and then 3 this season. There's only been a total of 9 tournaments, but there's only 3 of you guys that have won more than one of them, and so that's going to be quite a powerhouse hanging out on the Hawaii sands. But that does sort of raise a bit of a question of mine, and there's no cop-out answers here. Who do you believe is the best battler in Australia, and why?
I'd probably
allowed
go
to
with
say you.
Yakko. No, it's definitely not me. I'd go with Yakko at the moment, just because he's literally won the last 3 Australian tournaments he's done. Like, I don't know how you can say anyone else. Like, that's actually incredible. So, I think Vish is second best, and maybe me.
Oh,
I mean,
maybe.
we're starting to break through the humble facade. He knows he's there, but no, I don't think that anyone would put you outside of the top 3 in Australia. Sort of, I mean, I know consistency is a big part of it. Like you've been one of the best for the past 3 years running, and obviously as well, one of the only people on the entire planet who has landed in that top 16 of the World Championships 2 times running, 100% success rate. And I've got full faith that you can manage it again on World Championships number 3. Is, as Debbie said, not that far away.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any I guess goals for Worlds. Like, I think it's kind of silly to think you're gonna do well at Worlds, because I mean, you can look at, like, say, Fishy Legs, for example. Last year he played Padaman round 1. He unfortunately lost that, and then he goes to losers round 1. Has to play Dunebug. Like, literally anyone could get a run like that, and literally anyone could just lose instantly. So I think Worlds, you just go there, you prepare as best you can, you take it a game at a time, and just see how far you get. So that's the goal for Worlds.
Which I think is a good attitude to have.
Yeah.
I do want to, I guess, ask one thing, because this is a 2-for-1er in the sense that we are talking about Perth, we're also doing that little bit of the Road to Worlds edition. So says the title. I guess I just wanted to quickly ask, what has been your experience in terms of locals? So we've had locals for about 2 months. Obviously, you picked up some amount of championship points through locals. Not that you necessarily needed them to qualify. You qualified well enough just from one competing in 3 regionals, but you could have just qualified from Perth instantly, just for winning. But what's been your experience? How have you enjoyed them? Do you like the system? I guess what's the local vibe for you as a New South Welshman?
Yeah, it's been good. We've had, I think, three locals last month. Looks like there's going to be quite a few this month. But yeah, it's been good. It's nice to, do these battles in person, just hang out with everyone. It's good to have a way to practice every week or every few weeks. And yeah, it's kind of annoying. I've got to deal with this Whalmer guy all the time.
You beat me almost every time. But
yeah, but I've got to run all these Whalmer counters, and I don't really want to, but I just have to bring them because I know you're going to be there. Yeah.
And apparently we just, are destined to get paired up any possible opportunity. It's I'm pretty sure we've literally only missed one tournament that we haven't been paired up in, which is...
You guys even got paired up in the cup in Perth.
Yeah, he's just following me around. I can't get rid of him.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know
after
how that
you...
feels.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It was I just have a grudge to settle after you knocked me out of OCIC back.
Oh, is that what it is?
Or maybe it was when you beat me the 2 times before that in Silver Arena, or maybe it was... There's a long list of losses, but all I care about is that one time it was a win, and that's the only one that's on YouTube, baby.
Oh god. I bet you didn't clickbait it or anything though, so that's all right.
I mean, there's no clickbait if you just look on YouTube. I mean,
Okay.
Who follows me on Twitter anyway?
Oh dear.
If you're listening to this, it could be you. Just go to twitter.com/pvp. No. I guess, Rick, we do this every time, and I know it has been a year, but there is a question of the day as well. You've been given no prep for, and quite frankly, I've been given no prep for. Someone else has written this question.
No.
And I'm going to read it verbatim.
No.
Oh, no. RicFlareon, what's your favorite podcast? And who's your favorite co-host? And why is it Debbie Pebble?
Okay, so I'd have to say G'day Battlers is probably my favorite podcast. And I think Debbie is my favorite host. The reason for that is because she's the only host I've seen wear a Flareon pin on stream. And I think that was just a really good fashion choice, So yeah, I think Debbie's really good.
Thank you. That was not set up at all.
I get it, I just thought it would be really cool to wear a really big oversized Waylord pin, but evidently you've got bias against that, so fine. I don't even care, actually. I don't even mind.
Yeah,
whatever.
No one likes whales, so
Niantic probably does. Anyway, I guess, RicFlareon, you have been the Perth Regional Championship dude, and this has been the G'day Battlers podcast. I guess the big ol' endy, we're at the end. Where can people check you out? By which I essentially just mean, what's your Twitter at, right? Unless, I'm still waiting for the day that you pick up streaming.
Yeah, I doubt that's going to happen. My internet is absolutely horrific, so that's not happening anytime soon. But yeah, just at RicFlareon on Twitter. That's where you can find me.
Wait, are you telling me that
And
if
I don't post much.
just every time you pick up wins, which has been like the last 2 locals in a row, the last regional.
Sometimes, yeah.
I haven't scrolled through your Twitter, but I'm going to guess that has a high chance of being like your last 3 tweets.
I think my last one is the regional win. I don't think I've posted anything about locals.
Too easy.
Maybe I've retweeted something. I don't know.
My favorite tweet of all time is still the Charizard on the Pachiri's.
Yes, that is pinned as my first tweet, so everyone can check that out.
Forget
Get
the
those
medals.
views up.
That was my most viral tweet, so I'll take it. I'll take all the views on it I can get.
I just opened it. 293,000 views.
Yeah.
We'll make a content creator out of you.
I'll get there one day.
Don't even need internet for this. Just tweet nonsense. I mean, that's what I do anyway. With that said, RicFlareon, thank you for coming on. Thanks for hanging out.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Congratulations again. We'll see you in Hawaii. Follow Good Day Battlers at Good Day Battlers on Twitter and on YouTube. Drop us a like, a review, stars on Spotify and all that. And looking forward to the future podcast with the other qualifiers for the Oceania region as we head onto the Road to Worlds edition.
Yeah. Anyway, Rick, see you in a couple days at the next cup or whatever.
I'll bring my WoW counters.
I know you will.